in the neighborhood. Hey guys, it is Marcus here with Terry, and today we are on our special talk show. So we're testing out some new times for you guys to make sure that you guys are here, we're here, everything like that, because we want to get this so that you guys can get the most out of it. And you'll notice I am wearing my glasses today. My eyes are burning for some reason, so I'm just trying to get past that. So if I'm kind of out of sorts, that is the reason. So maybe it'll end up being the Terry show. Let me get a little zoomed in on here, see if that comes out a little bit better on the screen. That should be a little bit better. That way we're kind of equal. That way Terry doesn't look like a giant monster, which, if you guys have ever met me, I'm like 5 feet tall, so everyone is a giant monster. All right, so we are ready to get the show on the road. Today what we're going to be doing is talking about freedom from drug and alcohol addiction. Now, just a disclaimer, we are not doctors, we are not trained addiction people. We're just doing this as a service to show you what helped us get sober. And what you hear in this talk, take it with a grain of salt. Always go consult your doctor, always talk to the professionals. What we're doing is we're just sharing what worked for us and what we think can help you get freedom from addiction in whatever is going on in your life. Personally for me, and I know me and Terry kind of have differing views on some points, but a lot of stuff we agree on. But for me personally, freedom from addiction really has to do with learning to live again, right? You're learning a new way of life that doesn't involve this coping mechanism. It doesn't involve this escape. It doesn't involve the out that alcohol and drug addiction provides. And so what we want to do is want to talk about that and talk about some of the things that help us and some of the things that maybe hinder us. So, welcome to this week's show, Terry. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Welcome everybody. And yeah, freedom from addiction. It's a wonderful thing. I'm free from the slavery of alcohol. I was completely a slave to alcohol in my life. Everything I did revolved around drinking. My thoughts, everything was revolved around drinking. There's some aspects to the freedom of alcohol. I mean, I'm free from that slavery, and I'm free to do many things being sober. But at the same time, with that freedom comes some responsibilities, or maybe, I don't know if I want to say limitations, but they're kind of limitations I've put on myself, things that I probably should do that make me in danger of drinking again. Things like that. And we'll get into that in a little bit.
Cool. I think the echo should be a little bit better. I think I just had to turn down my monitors here so that you guys aren't hearing double Terry and one Mark. So that should be good. We got Drumstick here. Good to have you here. Is the echo working better now? If it is, type no echo, and we'll see if that is working. If not, it might be some other setting that I have on the computer. Let me just double check and make sure that there's nothing else there. Sometimes these things are kind of a pain to get going, but once we get them dialed in, we're pretty good to go. Oh, you know what? I had my video capture device on, so that was probably it. So if it's better, type better now. I think that was the thing. We started using an HD fancy camera here for streaming, and I forgot that when I have my microphone on and the camera on, we get a lot of echo. Okay, are you guys still hearing me?
No.
Should be.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. And let's see here. Okay, let me know. If it's no echo, type no echo in the box. If you are still getting an echo, let me know. Okay, it's Terry that has the echo. All right.
Sorry.
Terry, is your laptop on? And can you hear it coming out of your laptop?
No. There's no volume on it.
Okay, that's better. Okay, everyone's saying it's better, so we're gonna roll with that, and next week we'll get into the other stuff. So everyone who's joining us here, hi and welcome. We're gonna start something new this week, if anyone is interested, where we actually bring one of you guys on, where you can talk and share your experience and talk about what struggles you have, and we can kind of go through that together. If you do want to do that, I think there's a way we can reach out on Skype. Which we'll get to that later. If you want to do that, type Skype. But for today, what our topic is freedom from drug and alcohol addiction. Like, how do you get free from this? Because I remember when I first started thinking about getting sober, it was probably 2012, the end of 2012, when things were getting really bad, and I was thinking to myself, you know, how am I going to get sober? How can I quit? How can I do this? And to me at the time, it wasn't that I was ready to quit completely. Like I liked my alcohol. It worked, right? It's like, why should I give this up? It works. But sometimes it doesn't. And towards the end, the sometimes it doesn't started to become the norm. And there was no, it's working anymore. It was just maintaining like the norm that alcohol made, which the norm for you right now, if you're struggling with alcohol addiction, is not the norm that life is meant to be. It's not the norm that we are supposed to go through, right? Does that make sense, Terry? What was your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, alcohol had me in its grips. I mean, everything I thought about was alcohol. Is about how was I gonna keep alcohol in my possession at all time, keep it in my system. I had to get through the every time I would go without alcohol, which I wanted to do. I wanted to sober up. I'd start to go through withdrawals. All my thoughts were about alcohol. They weren't about my family. They weren't about my job. Everything. Alcohol had me in its grips. It was a horrible, horrible thing.
Now, for me, I remember being in the grips of alcohol was very difficult because alcohol made this self thought process, right? It controlled my thought process. So it was kind of like the evil girlfriend you have that like controls your mind and you can't get away from it, but you can't see it. Everyone else sees it, right? It's like that friend you have in high school and he starts dating someone and you're like, dude, you're starting to change. What the hell's the matter with you? And he's like, oh, nothing's wrong with me. I found love. It's the greatest thing in the world. And you're like, dude, I know you. You don't like these things. You don't do these things. This isn't you. Right? And everyone else can see it, but that person can't see it. And when you're in the grips of alcohol, that's kind of how it is because it's controlling your thoughts. And I kind of look at it like oftentimes there's a precursor to alcoholism. A lot of times you can predict who's going to be an addict and who isn't simply by the way they cope with things, simply by the way they manage things, simply by their introductory intake of whatever substance it is. And it's like, okay, well, you know, how can we teach this person to live again? How can we teach them a new way of life, a new way that's free, a new way that's going to help them, and a way that they don't even see possible? Like when I first started trying to look at sobriety, I just wanted to not be drunk and falling over and non-functioning. Like I was cool. I was like, okay, you know, if I could still drink and function and work and make the money I want to make and do the things I want to do, then hey, what's the problem? Right? But I didn't realize that the problem was below the surface, right? It's like that iceberg where you have the iceberg and you got the little tip up here and then down below there's all this huge stuff. And I didn't realize that all the huge stuff was going on. I didn't realize that the baseline of my happiness, the baseline of my feeling good was just dramatically dropped. Like that guy who dates the girl. It's like, hey, dude, your baseline has completely dropped and you're not even the same person anymore, right? And that's kind of what happens is you just become something new, something you didn't even expect, right? Does that make sense, Terry?
Absolutely makes sense. I mean, alcohol was controlling my thinking. I mean, I was trying to figure out how I could drink without people knowing, and like how far ahead of time did I need to stop before I like went to court or something like that, or should I bring a bottle with me so I can drink whenever I get back to the car or something like that. And I mean, I was wondering how much alcohol. I knew how much alcohol was hurting me, but it controlled me. I wouldn't stop, and it was completely underlying everything. I ruined a marriage. I lost a job. And of course, it wasn't my fault. I didn't think that. I didn't realize it was the alcohol until afterwards, when I got sober. Then I started to realize. I started to take an inventory of what I'd been doing wrong, and realizing that it had been my alcohol intake. It was my choices to drink that alcohol.
Yeah. And, you know, I look at it too because I always try to reverse engineer what happened. Like I'm always looking at like, okay, what happened? How could it have happened differently? How can you help someone? Because I remember years ago when I was in therapy, I remember there was this therapist and she was kind of like interesting, right? She wasn't like orthodox and normal therapy kind of stuff. And one day she brings in this guy, and this guy's he's going to teach me like Zen Buddhism and meditation. And for me at that time, I remember my thoughts were extremely fast. It was like I just couldn't get out of my head. My thoughts were fast. All I could do was think about surviving the next minute, right? I was like, I got to survive the next minute. I got anxiety. Thoughts are racing. What's going to shut it off? And this poor guy comes in and he's like, you know, teaching me for free. He's like, I'm going to teach you, you know, this Buddhism thing. And I'm sitting there and I'm completely absorbed with myself, completely absorbed with my anxiety, my thoughts, what I got to do at work. I got to get out of here. This dumbass isn't going to teach me anything is what I thought in my mind. And a lot of things that I thought in my mind back then, you know, were completely assholic and messed up, because it was like, hey, you know what? All I was doing was thinking about myself all the time. And this guy was trying to teach me stuff. And I can remember he had a speech issue where he talked really slow and struggled over words and things like that. And I was sitting there like, dude, can you just get to the point? I need the magic bullet that's going to be like, you're not going to drink anymore. And now everything's zen and bliss and wonderful. But the problem that I realized is that I was trying to get better from the same mindset that made me sick, right? So right where you're at right now, okay, whether you're sober, whether you're drinking, whether you're miserable, whether you're happy, where you are at right now is a culmination of all of your life up till now. Right? It's like, I think it was Werner Erhard used to say that life is a successive, what was it? A continuous something, successive moments of now, right? Your life is built of all these successive moments of now. It's like, you can look at the past as this long stream, but the fact of the matter is the past is built of little slip-shot pictures of moments, right? Like right now we are in a moment. There's a picture here. It has nothing to do with past. It has nothing to do with future. It's right now. Back then, the things you look at past, right then, were the nows of then, right? And so we look at it, and it's like, okay, my brain brought me here. And all the while, I'm going through all these moments, and I'm reacting the way I'm reacting, and I'm living the way I'm living, because I brought all this stuff into now, and I'm interpreting everything, past, future, present, everything through now. And through all what I have, right? There's a filter of all this stuff. Like, I was abused, I was this, I was that. That's our filter. And so for us, this filter, this mind, this thought process that we've created is what brought us here. Okay, so, and I don't like the cliches, but one of them they say is, hey, you know, your best thinking is what got you where you're at right now. Okay? Whether you want to look at that or not, your thinking, best, worst, whatever, is what brought you where you are here now. Your life is what brought you here and now. And for me, one of the things was like this overwhelming sense of empathy for everyone, right? When I got sober, there was like this overwhelming empathy where I was like, you know, if I was in Terry's shoes and I grew up like Terry and I thought like Terry and I did everything like Terry, I would do everything like Terry because I would be Terry. If I was Marcus, right? I would do everything. If I was James or I was Drumstick Man, you know, our viewers here, I would do exactly what you do, right? There was no surprise that I would become an alcoholic because that's the thought process that built around what I had. I built this thought process that was protective. And oftentimes this thought process is like, okay, I need to protect me because I've been hurt. I've been hurt. Things have happened. I need to protect me. And what we realize is the very barrier that we built to protect ourselves is the very thing stopping us from ending addiction, from living the life of freedom, from getting free, right? Because that's what we all want. And if this makes sense to you, type something in the box. You know, what we all want is the freedom. But we're using the same mind that put us in jail in the first place, so to speak, the metaphorical jail, to try to get out. Right? And it's like, with that mind, you're going to sit there and you're going to be like, well, I built this jail and I know that these bars are like this and I specifically built it so I couldn't get out and I did this and I put the key over there and the little dog from the, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean isn't going to bring me the key and I know everything about this box I've built myself in except how to get out, because the same mind that built it is the same mind that's trying to get better. Right? It's like you can't get better with a sick state of mind. Right? Does that make sense? What do you think about that, Terry?
I agree completely. I mean, I had to completely surrender, and When I got sober, my mind wasn't able to think really anything different. I had what you said. I had that alcoholic mind, and that was what was trying to make my decisions. So I had to basically surrender and open up. I had to open my mind and allow other people to kind of tell me what to do. Really, I mean, they all suggested what I needed to do, and it was just a matter of doing what they told me to do. So I had to get willing to do that stuff, and then I had to do it. And that's what helped develop that new mindset for me and get me in a more sober mindset and work daily on that sobriety.
Now, is there one thing you can pinpoint? Like, I know in my sobriety, I look back on it, and then there's a couple things I can pinpoint that were like, okay, this is what caused the freedom. This is what caused me to just be like, whoa, I need to question everything because nothing's working, right? What was that moment like for you if you did have one?
You know, I would say that it was the consequences of my drinking, and
Okay.
it just I just became desperate every single day. I no longer had a license, so every single day I'd be walking to the liquor store, which is 12 minutes from my house by walking, and I'd be thinking, this is the last bottle I'm going to buy. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually, I just finally realized that I have to do something. And that was really the moment where I decided that I had to quit. And that moment wasn't the final moment that I drank. I did quit. I went to rehab. I got out of rehab. I drank again. And really, that moment had to happen again. And it did. And it did in a very painful way. It was pretty bad. But that was kind of it, really.
Okay, I remember for me, and that's interesting because I like looking at the differences in the stuff.
Yeah.
I remember for me, it was the fact that I had built up an identity and a belief system in my mind. So I had this identity of, hey, I do this business, I have the family, I'm successful, I have my head on straight, right? Everyone was like, hey, you seem like a therapist, you seem really grounded, and I was like, yeah, if you only knew, I was a whack job. Um,
Mm.
but we look at that, and I had this life built up, and it was like my footing. It was like I woke up every day, and here's Marcus. He's going to work. This is what he is. And people would, they would look at that and they'd be like, okay, this is who he is. This is what it is. He's got it figured out. He's got this stuff. He's going on his way. And people would look at it and I would talk to them as if I knew what I was talking about. And I remember Ram Dass calls it like somebody training, right? We go through life and we go through this somebody training. I'm training to be somebody. I'm going to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, right? And we look at that, and for me, I had this built up, and it started to crumble because alcohol started to poke holes in my story, right? It was like, well, you're not that good. You're, kind of suck at this. You're not that great. This isn't happening. You're not this person anymore. You're not that. And for me, I was very big on my emotional and mental stability. I had it right? You argue with me about politics. I'm right. You're wrong. That's it. End of story. It's like, you can't be right because I'm right, Someone would piss me off, I get in an argument, or someone would rip me off, or, there'd be a dispute about something, and I'm right. That's it. I'm right. There was no room for you to be right because I was right, so you had to be wrong. Because I'm Marcus, and I'm this person, and I built this stuff. And, you'd hear opposing points of view, and you don't even listen to them because you're right. What the hell are you going to learn from some dumbass if you're right? And I remember I carried this with me, and it got really bad when I drank. And for those of you who are still active in addiction, stay off of the Facebook and the internet while you're drinking. It's a very, very bad place to be, because if you're like me and you have the I'm right thing and you get into a discussion, you're not going to have very many friends left at the end of it. But needless to say, the whole buildup of this, right? It came to a culmination, and I know one of the other cliches people say, it's not an addiction cliche, but it's a life cliche. They say, when you're in your 20s, you got everything figured out and you know it all, and then when you hit 30, you figure out you didn't really know shit. And that's kind of what happened to me, because I was living this facade, this fake version of myself, and I wasn't free. I was like, okay, I need to, do more of it. I got to do more, make more money, be more successful, be smarter, learn more, be more. And our society is obsessed with that, and they reward that kind of behavior. But I never stopped and really looked at, well, who do I want to be? Who is it that is even thinking they are this person or they're not this person? And then one day, here I am, this guy who's like, hey, I'm the pinnacle of intelligence. I know more, and I'm right, and everyone else is wrong, and I have this, and I have that. And I even prided myself on the fact that I sold my house drunk, right? And so one day, this stuff just crashed. I ended up in a mental institute, and it was like, wait a minute, I don't belong here. And then I thought to myself, well, yeah, I do belong here, because this is what my thinking has brought me to.
Right.
I have gone crazy. I went crazy because of my thinking. Now, my thinking was messed up in the beginning, okay? And then you pour alcohol on it, and it's like fires to the flame or gas to the flame or whatever you call it, and it exacerbates all this stuff, and it makes it worse. And for me, when I look at it, I'm like, well, what would it have been like if someone could have offered me freedom? Right? Like right here, there's people watching this, and they're like, well, I kind of want freedom. What would it be like if someone offered it to you and showed you the way to get it? And for me, the way to get utter and ultimate freedom is to realize that what you have right now is built on a house of cards, right? And I talked to my brother about this, which unfortunately, I don't know if he's sober or not anymore, but I talked to him about it, and he had a really big struggle with identity. Who am I, right? Am I this asshole who gets drunk and treats people like shit, or am I the nice guy that people say that I am when I don't drink? Who am I? And for me, it was like, well, who cares? I'm just going to live in this moment right now and do what I can with what I have. And it produced kind of like a vulnerability, right? Because that's what we're protecting, is the vulnerability of, hey, this is who I am, and I can be hurt, and I can be stomped on, and I could be praised, and whatever. It could be anything, and we really don't know. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. It was interesting, backing up just a little bit, and our differences, but and yeah, we had a different road to our getting sober, and but at the same time, there's a lot of similarity there. I think we were both actors. We were both acting. You were acting as a successful person, and that you had your life together. And I actually did the same thing too. When I lost my job, I quit my job. So that's what I had, is I quit my job because those guys are all messed up. And when my wife left, it was her fault, And I was acting the same. I was also an actor. It's just what we do as alcoholics. Try to pretend everything's okay when it's not, and eventually it catches up to us, and then that's when it crumbles. For you, it was the getting taken away on the 5150, and for me it was rehab, and then the next time it was in the emergency room.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I think that in life, it's not so much the acting that is the problem, it's the believing it's real. Right. So like, I'm acting today. I'm like, okay, well, today I'm going to put on my, outfit and go in there and talk about sobriety. And to an extent, there's some acting. It's like, okay, I think that I'm doing this. I think I'm doing this. I think I figured this out. But in reality, I know that I'm not an expert. I don't know that much. I just know a couple things that worked, and people seem to like to listen to me, which is interesting. But, it's the seriousness of it. It's the seriousness of, hey, I'm not acting. I am real. And this is it, right? But we have to realize, hey, we're all actors playing a part in the play called life, and sometimes you got to laugh at yourself, sometimes you got to cry at yourself, sometimes you got to be okay with what's going on. And the freedom comes when you surrender to that. You surrender to the fact that, hey, I don't know what life's going to be. I don't have it all figured out. I could be wrong, right? And that's where it comes to me, is like, okay, well, can you be wrong on something? And for those that are stuck in addiction, you're probably wrong about your addiction, right? To some degree. Obviously, you don't know how to get out of it, or maybe you're just not successful at it. And a lot of people think that it comes from willpower, right? If I just muster up enough courage and say no to that drink, maybe that will work. It didn't work for me, and for me, what had to happen was I had to question everything, and then question the very fact that I was able to question, and then say, hey, look, you know what? I have to give up on this because alcohol doesn't work for me. My thought process is completely down the drains in the gutter, and I need a new way. And for me, and I want to kind of go a direction in this call where we talk about some things that will give you freedom, right? What is it that will give you freedom? So first of all, I think one of the big things is surrendering to the fact that your identity is nothing. It's just a house of cards, right? It means nothing. And so that is the first and foremost thing. Like, you might look at this, and I remember when I used to drink, thank God Trump wasn't president when I drank, because I would have had so many arguments, which is funny because I actually used to be way more Republican, and now I'm like kind of whack job liberal. But I would have had these arguments, and they would have been arguments that would have taken me to the bar. Be like, hey, F you, you don't know what's right. You don't know what's wrong. I know what's right and wrong, and I'm going to go get plastered to prove it to you. It's like, okay, yeah, how's that working? Right. But even that, right? Like I want everyone watching this right now to take their most prized belief, right? Whatever it is. I believe in this. I believe this. The human race needs this. Whatever you believe, whatever is like the dominant belief, and ask yourself what would happen if that was poked holes in, shredded, and you could no longer hold that as a belief. What would happen to you, right? What would happen to your thought life? James says, quitting drinking was the hardest things I've ever done. Now I have other vices, but they're not hurting me as much, so I keep on, and they are slowly killing me. Now, James, for you, do you feel free? Right? Because we can be sober, but not free. And this is a video that I did here on the channel for the Dry Drunk. And everyone got mad at me about this video. Not everyone. Some people really liked it. We got a lot of people who watched it. And it was talking about, hey, you know what? You can get sober and be a total, like, jerkwad, like just an ass to everyone. And to me, personally, that's not freedom. Right? That's just giving up alcohol. And that's cool, right? If that's what you need to do, give up the alcohol and, do what you got to do. But the freedom comes in changing the way that you think about everything, changing the way that you believe, changing the way that you live. And I think that that's what so much literature goes to. And this is why they talk about, like, you look at it, and it's interesting because I study this stuff like crazy. And it's like, here's these experts, they go to schools for years, and pretty much what we've come up to conclusion, right? Alcohol problem has been around since, like, cavemen had berries that were fermented. And what we've come to over 8,000 years or however many years civilization has been around is like a spiritual experience and follow steps. Yeah. And it's interesting because you'd be like if a cancer guy went in and you're like, hey, you know what you need to do for the cancer is you need to follow some steps and you need to go to church and, get born again or whatever. And those things are good. They work for some and everything. But my question is why is that there? Why does one group have a thing and they're like, hey, you need a spiritual awakening? You read another book and they're like, hey, you need this. And Carl Jung, hey, you need a spiritual awakening. And some people are like, what the hell, dude? I don't want to go to church. I just want to get sober. And to me, I look at it and I'm like, okay, what does it have to do with anything? Well, when you look at spiritual awakenings, whether you look at Buddhism, whether you look at Native American, whether you look at Hindu, whatever you look at, spiritual awakening happens when someone's entire belief system is flipped on its head, right? That's why they're like, hey, he got born again, right? An interesting term. It's like, how does that work? Well, it works because everything changes. Okay, and that's what happened to me is I questioned everything, and I was like, holy cow, my entire life is off balance, and now I have to figure out everything again because I had spent my whole life building up these beliefs. Now, we got some action in the chat box here, so I'll see if I can get, this here wireless mic.
Congratulations to Seeker J and Mary for your sobriety 3 weeks and 9 months. That's awesome.
That is.
Drumstick had mentioned something that I think is really key for staying sober, and let me see if I can find it here. But it was sorry about that. But it was.
I think I see it here. He said, for me, it was like I had to be able to see all the positive things of being sober. Right. Once I realized everything in my life got better when sober, staying sober wasn't that hard anymore. Was that the one?
Yeah, that's the one. And that's a huge thing for staying sober for me as well, is just looking at the positive things and also not forgetting the terrible things that happened because of my drinking. I mean, my mind, I have a built-in forgetter. I will focus on the days when I was sober and when I didn't seem like an alcoholic, but focusing on those positive things. It's incredible being sober. Just life is so much easier. So much easier not having to be that actor. It's so freeing. That's the biggest freedom of being sober, is just I don't have to hide things anymore. I can be me.
Exactly. And, you know, I was talking to some people about this earlier this week, where we were talking about, you know, a lot of what we believe and a lot of what we think was put on us by society. Like, you go to other societies, they don't think this stuff. They're not like, hey, you need to get a Bentley and that means you've arrived, or, you know, you need to be this or you need to be that, or you got to always be working and hustling 24 hours a day. Other cultures aren't really like this. And when we look at that, we start to question the fact that, you know, all this stuff that you think, all the hang-ups in your life have been programmed into you, right? Like, everything has been programmed into you. The fact that people believe that quitting drinking is hard has been programmed into us somehow by society. And we look at that and we're like, okay, does it have to be that way? Does my life have to be this way? And when you start to question things, right, and openly question, like, I don't know where it's going to take me. I'm going to have fun in the journey. That's when things start to change. Seeker J, awesome on the 9 months sober. Let's see. Drumstick says, to this day, I still think about all the advantages I have because I'm sober, and it works for me. Life has become incredibly better. Exactly. And a lot of people think when you get sober, you're not going to have fun anymore. But, I mean, it's kind of fun to be the sober one because you understand what's going on. You know, you can, like, hey, you know, you can do what you want. And make it work. So cool. Mary says, sober 3 weeks and my brain is working much better. Mary, awesome. Congratulations on that. Love to hear that stuff. Make sure you put some comments and things on the other videos. Tell us what works for you. What brought you to the 3 weeks, and what's going to keep you going. Let's see. Seeker says, best part is not sitting down in the boring bar. Yeah, you know, a bar's exciting when you're drunk because, I mean, everything's exciting when you're drunk because you could fall off a 1-inch step and, you know, it's like this adventure. But it kind of sucks, you know. Okay, we got...
Hey, I broke an ankle being drunk in a bar, so there you go.
Those dangerous old bars. Okay, Mary says, when did the discussion begin? We started at 12 o'clock Eastern time. We're trying to dial in the best ones for the time. Okay, Seeker says the whole damn country has a drinking problem, if you ask me. Well, I don't know the whole country, but I know it is a lot bigger than people think, and there's a lot less resources than people think, too. You know, I think that really my goal for this channel is to help people think about this in a different way. Right? Think about it in a different way. How do we help people think about this? Open the dialogue, talk about the things people don't want to talk about, and help people come to that realization of, hey, look, you know what? I'm not the be-all, end-all. The world doesn't spin because of me, and it's not going to stop when I'm gone. I'm just one of 8 billion people, and I just do what I do. Okay. Seeker says, I was able to tell the other day I used to cry when I was drunk and wanted to kill myself. Yeah, that's exactly how I was. And I didn't realize that the drinking caused it. I just thought the drinking helped it because I was like, oh, woe is me. I need this now. And I didn't realize, hey, this is actually causing it, right? It's like, you know, hitting yourself with a hammer on the foot and you're like, man, this really hurts. I better hit myself again because, you know, when I actually hit myself, it doesn't hurt. It's after, right? And you keep doing it and it's like, okay, well, that's not really working for you. Same with drinking, right? You don't realize that that's happening. Mary says, going forward, what time on Thursday do we tune in? We're debating doing a later one. I have to time it here because in Florida we have lightning storms, which knocks the power out of the office, so we can't do the 3 o'clock. But we will try to do probably like 12 or something. But we'll get that ironed out as we go along. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Mary says, dispelling the myth is so true. The myth that of I can't go without it is completely in our minds. Exactly. And that's something that's interesting. So like Mary, I used to be able to quit for 3 weeks at a time. I was like, hey, cool. Made it 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a week, whatever it was. I was like, great. I was good. And then all of a sudden I'd go back to it. And what I didn't realize is the fact that I've heard by many experts in the field, I'm not an expert, but I've heard by many experts that the actual physical withdrawal and craving, the physical version, ends in like 3 to 4 days at the most, right? So after 3 days, which, I mean, a lot of people could stay sober 3 days, we look at that and we're like, okay, well, the actual physical stuff's gone. So all you're battling with now is mental stuff.
Right.
Right? It's completely in your brain. And we look at it and we're like, well, does it have to be? Do I have to listen? Because oftentimes, you know, we choose what thoughts we pick up. Thoughts are going to come, and you can't control your thoughts. I'm sorry. Talk to whoever you want. You can't control your thoughts. It's just going to be controlled. It's just going to happen, right? But you choose what you dwell on. Right? It's like you have all these thoughts that go by. It's chemical impulses in the brain. It has to do with your upbringing. It has to do with what you think about. It has to do with the TV you watch. Whatever. Those things kind of put the thoughts out there. And then you choose what you're going to focus on and what you're going to pick up on and dwell on. And oftentimes for the alcoholic, what happens is you see the thought of drunk and drink and whatever, and the taste starts to happen in your mouth, and you start to feel it, and you start to think. And then you're like, well, shoot, I should go get one. This seems like a great thing. But the fact of the matter is I could just look at it and be like, hey, you know what? That thought just went by. Who cares? I don't have to dwell on it. Right? I don't have to recreate physical sensations in my body. Like the other day, the Super Bowl thing was on, and Super Bowl was a big drinking time. You know, you got to have a beer with the football. That's how our culture thinks. You have to. And to me, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the grocery store. And I was like, okay, I've been thinking about it. So obviously I'm going to see all the fancy beers that are like $1 for 1,000 pack because of the Super Bowl. And I'm trying not to think of them. And like some guy dropped his box outside the store, and it was like everywhere. And the scent was like, whoa, hey. You know, and I could have dwelled on the scent and said, that smells good. I want that. That makes me feel good. It makes me this, makes me that. Or I could just be like, whatever, that's what my brain's going to do, right? If it was too bright out, I'm going to squint. I can't control that. You know, if I smell something gross, I'm going to plug my nose. If I hear something, I can plug my ears. We can't control some of that stuff. But the fact is so many people try to control their thoughts, and that's what makes you get out of control, right? Again, it's that illusion of control of your thoughts and drinking and stuff. Seeker says that alcohol makes you have super low standards for yourself and slowly become a bum, he says. Well, yeah, can be. But there's a lot of people who drink who are super successful people, and they have the appearance of it. So, you know, either way, it just has to do with what it does for you. You want to chime in on that, Terry?
Yeah, because I see people in all aspects of society every day that are different, that were different levels of drunkenness, and sure, yeah, your bar can definitely get down to the bottom. I was speaking with a person just the other day, and he was living under the freeway, and until somebody came in, and well, he became willing first, but then somebody came and helped him get sober, and he's still sober today after a few years. And at the same time, I have a good friend, and he owns an insurance business, and yeah, he got to the point where he almost lost it, but he didn't lose it. He's got the big house and the nice car and all that, and he didn't lower his standards or anything. He just was finally able to get sober. He was definitely, in his mind, he was down in the gutter, but on that outward appearance, he was doing just great. And yeah, it's all aspects of people can get to the bottom with their alcohol abuse. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I think freedom comes from what you think about yourself too, because like at one point, the guy who was living under the freeway has to stand up and be like, you know what, this is where I am. This is where it is.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything, right? I remember there was a guy when I used to be a preacher years ago. This guy was alcoholic, and we tried to help him many times. And he had nothing, right? And you would look at him and you'd be like, what a loser, you know, doesn't do anything. He'd fall over in the gutter, hit his head several times. We'd pick him up, take him to the place, and let him have a shower at a hotel or something. And he always went back. And when you got to know this guy, you realized that this guy had some major hurts. I mean, he lost his family in a tragic way years ago, and he just couldn't get back on his feet. He just couldn't figure it out. And I think that a lot of times, one of the ideas of freedom from drug and alcohol addiction is freedom from our stories, right? You have a story you carry around, right? Whether it's, my spouse is this way, my family was this way, I was abused, I was this, I was hurt, I was wronged, society wronged me, or my family had this, or whatever. And sometimes we have to just look at things as they're just part of life, right? It just happens. And sometimes there's very bad things that happen. And oftentimes people try to explain them. It is the worst thing. Like, if you want no freedom, try to explain everything. It's like, I don't know why some stuff happens. I just don't, right? It's kind of like when I was a preacher, I had everything figured out. I knew who God was. And now I realize that the minute I have God figured out is the minute I have become him in my mind, right? Because if I have it all figured out, then I've become him, right? Who's he to tell me who he is? I already know who he is. Same thing with life, right? It's like we look at it and we don't know why things happen. We don't know what happened. We don't know if it's going to turn out for good or bad. We have no idea. But the fact of the matter is we can live, as Alan Watts' book says, you could live anxiety-free in the age of uncertainty, right? And sometimes there's uncertainty. Sometimes things happen. Mary says that's been the most freeing realization, that we can't control our thoughts, but we can minimize how much. Exactly. Right? And you choose what you want to do, right? We can't control it, but we can choose where we want to take it, right? We can choose what stories we choose to live by, because if I live by the story of everyone wronged me, I should have more, I should be better, I should get this, I should have that, I want, I need, like Buddha said, he said that the cause of all suffering is desire. It's desire for something different, rather than looking at, hey, you know what I have, and that's good. Maybe one day I'll get more. That's cool too. Maybe. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is you are where you are, and you can accept that fact. And it's funny because, like, I remember in early sobriety, I thought, okay, well, if I accept all this and I give up, I'm going to be like this weakling, and I'm not going to have a successful business anymore, and whatever. I'm not going to grind every day and be obsessed with it like I used to. And it actually got better inadvertently. I didn't even try, and things started getting better because I was living my life from a place of joy and a place of freedom and a place of gratitude, rather than waking up every day and being like, I am Marcus, I was abused, these people hurt me, this person hurts me on a day-to-day basis, this is happening to me, this is wrong, this is going to happen, I need to drink to shut all that shit off because I was given a bad hand, right? And if you want your bad hand to get worse, go drink. If you want the freedom, then you can look at it and say, well, I don't even know if it's a bad hand. Like, you're getting the poker hand for those poker buffs, and you're looking at the first 5 cards, and you're like, I got a shitty hand. But you don't know. You might be able to just put that hand down, and the next 5 cards of the hand, you get 2 hands in poker, might be a royal flush, and you have no idea. Or it might be another shitty hand. But does it really matter? Again, what is shit? What is good? We look at success by fancy and this and that, and guy under bridge is loser, guy in the high tower is winner, and who knows? The guy under the bridge might be the real winner. We have no idea, right? If you want to look at Bible stuff, he actually says that guy's the winner. But, does that make sense to everyone? I know sometimes I ramble, but you want to take some questions while we ask if that makes sense, Terry?
Absolutely. Seeker Jay was saying people look at me funny when I say I don't drink, and a couple of people were kind of agreeing with them. And you know what I do? I work I'm in catering, and I cater at bars, and so I'm offered drinks constantly. And I don't tell people I don't drink. I just say no, thank you. For me, it's that simple. Or I ask for something like, can I get a Pellegrino or something like that? Every once in a while, somebody's like, what, you don't want alcohol? And I'm like, well, I'm working, or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot easier for me. I know this is kind of sidetracking from freedom, from alcohol, but that's an important tool for me, is kind of the proper response when somebody's asking, do I want a beer or whatever. But yeah, that's an important thing.
Yeah, and also it's like, I don't know, I got to the point where we really can't care what they think. Like,
Right.
who cares? Like, society thinks that, oh, it's weird or weak or whatever. And it's like, well, last time I checked, society was pretty fucking crazy. You know? Last time I checked. I mean, I don't know. But we look at that and it's like, well, you know, maybe the conventional thought isn't right about that. Um,
And you know, not caring what people think, or letting go of what people think. That's one of the freedoms that you can get from getting away from alcohol. I mean, just that's now before, when I was drinking, I worried about what other people were thinking, because I didn't want them to know I was drinking, and I wanted to hide that drinking. I wanted to be that successful looking person. And that's one of the huge freedoms that you get. I mean, I can pretty much do what I want. That's another freeing thing that's with not drinking alcohol. I can go anywhere. Like the other day, I went to Safeway at 10 p.m. and did my shopping trip. Everybody else in line had booze, and I had just a cart full of food. You know,
mhm.
I'm I'm free to be myself, because I've let go of what other people are thinking, or at least I try to let go of what other people are thinking. You know, I still concern myself with that, but it's a lot less now, and I can express my opinions more in the world, because I'm not trying to once again hide behind that bottle and try to make sure people don't think I'm drinking. You know,
Yeah,
it's awesome, this freedom that we get from alcohol.
yeah, and I think that one thing too is like, uh, focus on what you do. Focus
Yeah.
on your life, because people are going to do what they're going to do,
Yep.
and that's their life, and that's cool. Whatever you want to do, that's cool. If you come to me and you say I can't stop drinking, then I'll see what I can do to kind of help you. I won't judge you, but I'll see what I can do. But if you're out there and drinking and you're fine, that's to you. That's your business, right? And oftentimes, you know, you find that sometimes alcoholics get a high horse when they get sober, and they're like, "Oh well, I don't drink like those fools." But you know, it should do the exact opposite. It should give you the sympathy of, "Oh shit, I used to do that. I used to not be able to see," and you know, you should be able to have the gratitude. Let's see a couple other questions here. Um, Drumstick says, but intentionally, I think those people don't have a clue, consuming poison for fun, and I feel sorry for them. Yeah, you can. There's actually a video that I did. I'll put in the description here, and I'll put the link towards the end of the call so you guys can all check it out. It's kind of weird, but it was a video I did about society's role on alcohol and how it consumes the way we think. And it's an interesting video. I think you guys will like it. So at the end, I'll give you that link. And if you're watching the replay, it'll be in the description box there as well. Let's see. Daffy says, morning vice was always coffee, evening vice increasingly healthy, dark chocolate and fresh dates. I love being clear-headed and remembering. Me too, I love being clear-headed. One thing I don't forget is the guilt. I hated the guilt. That was just hell for me. Let's see. Mary says society is really crazy right now. I find watching the news and the market very nerve-wracking. Well, don't watch it. It's not going to
Right.
change. Like, you're not going to make more money by watching the news. People think that happens. Like, I look at it and it's like, okay, I can look at the latest stupid thing going on in politics, and I get mad, and my family notices this. They're like, hey, you know, you've been watching the news lately. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta stop. But the fact of the matter is me watching the news has no bearing on the outcome at all. Like, if you want to do something, turn the news off and go be an advocate for what you want to be an advocate for, right? Like, I can look at it and be like, politicians don't understand alcoholism and they treat it like shit. And that's a true belief that I hold. So what am I doing? I'm coming on here, right? I'm going to come on here till we get tons of people that are watching and getting changed, and we're going to talk and we're going to change the discussion about alcohol, because it can be better. And it's like throughout society, you always look at things and you're like, wow, we used to do that. And then you kind of go through, right? It's like evolution or something like that. Let's see here. Mary says, I'm more aware of how much time the ritual of drinking took up in my daily life. That's another thing.
Oh
You want
yeah.
freedom of time? Alcohol takes your whole damn day. I thought I was the busiest person alive, and I wasn't, right?
Right.
You want to chime in on that?
Yeah, well, definitely. That was my life, alcohol. And if I had to do something where I was sober, I was thinking about how and when I was gonna be able to drink again. Of course, it's that's the problem with alcoholism is it eventually just takes over your entire life and you become the bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because it does take up a lot of life, and we don't realize that we're giving it our life. Like you're giving alcohol your life. If you were to go to a church, it would be the church of alcohol, and you'd be the greatest attendant ever because your daily devotionals are all friggin' day. And we look at that, and it's like, okay, how do we change that? Okay, let's see. Seeker says alcohol and ED. I don't know if I ever had that problem. I was probably too drunk to figure out if I did. Daffy says, I recognize the pose now that people adopt in front of alcohol in supermarkets. Faking, I don't know what that word is. Studiousness? Studious, I think, like fanciness, while looking for a cheap fix. Maybe, yeah. Zara says, sober since December 26, 2017. Congratulations on that. I know how hard it is to stay sober, so that's awesome. And it will get easier, just, focus. And she says, for me, it was about control. My life had some tragic events that were out of my control. For me, alcohol was a way for me to, quote unquote, control my feelings. Exactly. And we think it is the way to control. You know why? Because it's the best we know, right? It's the best we know. It's like a guy who's out there and he's like trying to dig a ditch with a spoon. And you come along and you're like, dude, why don't you have a freaking tractor? What the hell's the matter with you? He's like, I didn't even know there was a tractor. What are you talking about? And for us, we're like, well, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to control my thoughts with alcohol, which makes them more out of control. And someone can come along and say, hey, look, you don't have to control them. You don't even have to worry about it. Like, why are you trying to control them? And it's interesting because a lot of times we're like, oh, I thought that. That's bad. And for those of you that struggle with this, I have a book that I'm coming out with. We're going to have, maybe if you guys want a review copy, maybe post something in the comments or figure out a way to get a hold of me on talksober.com. I think you could get me at marcus@talksober.com. Or you could write me here on YouTube. Either way, you can do a private message. And we'll get you a review copy. You can tell me what you think, and we'll focus on that. Glentia says, awesome, my date is December 27th, 2007. It only took me 23 years of meeting to finally fully concede. That's great. That's awesome. I'm glad that you guys are sober. I hope these videos are helping you. If there's any video that you want, like maybe you have a struggle in your life and you're like, I want freedom from this struggle. This is the one thing that is bugging me. And we'll make some videos to help you out, or maybe we'll have you guys on the calls and stuff like that. All right, so with that said, we'll take a couple more questions and then call it a wrap for the day and pick our time for next week. We'll get it dialed in so you guys can all be here and hang out and everything. And if you do want to come on these live, I'm going to be setting up a Skype just for this. And I don't know how we'll do it, but I know that I can have Terry on Skype because he's on Skype right now. I think we'd have to either only have audio of him or something. Well, we'll figure it out, but we'll have that set up for you. And if you have Skype, you can come on and hang out and talk and, just be presentable. Make sure you have pants and stuff. That's important. So, all right. Cool. Anything to add while we start closing out, Terry?
Well, I thank everybody for watching, and I do these videos just to help. It's what helps me stay sober is helping other people, and the freedom of alcohol is truly incredible. I mean, we've gone over some of the things that the freedom has given us, but it's really it comes down to now I'm free to be happy if I want to be happy. I'm free to feel the emotions of things that didn't happen, where alcohol just pushed those down. There are limitations to my freedom. I have to work on sobriety constantly. I don't make a habit of going to bars and going to parties where drinking's prevalent and things like that. But that's kind of self-imposed limitations. I'm free to do those things if I want to. It's just that that kind of steering away from those things helps me stay sober.
Yeah.
So thanks again, everybody.
Cool. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We will be here next week, probably same time, noon on Thursday, Eastern time. And I'm going to post that video now before we close out. That way you guys can get that. It's an interesting one, so, you know, watch it with a grain of salt. And if you have trouble, like, seeing alcohol on the screen, probably not the video for you, but it's kind of an interesting one. I think you guys will enjoy it if I can, in fact, find it. Let's see where it's at. It's one of my first videos, so it's a little interesting. But I'll try to find that for you. And if you guys have other questions, type them in. We'll get those for the end. There it is. Cool. Okay. Copy link. Oh, wait, no, I got to copy the link on this page. The watch page. There we go. Okay, so we'll copy this link. This will be in your chat box. I'll put it right here. That is the one. All right, Glenita said she liked the video reviewing the big book. Hope you guys liked that. All right, cool. So we will call it a wrap. Go watch that video. Check it out. And if you guys have any topics that you want us to cover, put them in the comments below. Tell us what you think about this. And remember, the thoughts about drinking, the thoughts about going out and drinking, they don't matter. Right? You don't have to think about them. You don't have to care about them. You can laugh at them and be like, of course I think about drinking because I drank for so many years. Very, very easy, right? It's like if you're a businessman for years, you're going to see the world in terms of business. That's how you're going to think. If you alcoholic for years, you're going to think about alcohol. It's just going to come up. And you don't have to feel the way you feel anymore, and you don't have to drink the way you drink anymore. Everything can change, and I wish the best for you. And if you need anything, let us know. Go over to TalkSober.com. Check out the videos and tools we have for you. Get a hold of me if you do want an advanced copy of the book. I think we're like 2/3 the way done with it, and you can tell me what you think. But it's designed as a 30 days, like 30 letters in 30 days that you read over 30 days to help you stay sober. So by the time you get to day 30, it'll probably be done, I hope. So thanks again for watching. I'm Marcus, and that is Terry, and we'll see you guys next week, and we'll see you here on the channel in the videos. Thanks again. And I gotta find the little button to turn it off.